Live from a basement in Dubuque, Iowa.
I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
30 minutes from the Field of Dreams and 4 hours from the closest professional sports team.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
On the banks of the Mississippi River.
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
It's the Degenerate Sports Betting Show with Matthew Freedman.
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
And now your host, Matthew Freedman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Freeman, Matt F. the Oracle. Welcome to the Degenerate Sports Betting Show, brought to you by Bets TV and sponsored by the FTN Network, where you can get all the season-long and daily fantasy and sports betting content your degenerate heart desires, including my fantasy football write-ups and all of my NFL size totals and player props. Although, let's be honest, the football season is over. All right, no more fantasy write-ups for me. This is the greatest Monday in the history of Mondays. But there's still a lot of content you can get at FTN. So use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off of your FTN subscription. That is Freedman for 20% off at FTN. Thanks for checking out the show. Subscribe to the Bets TV channel on YouTube and rate, review, and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. It is Monday. Glorious, glorious Monday. Only 6 football games for the NFL on the horizon. No Monday Night Football per se, although we do have the college football championship tonight. So we're going to talk about that game a little bit and then talk about some of maybe we'll look ahead a little bit to some of the games, but talk about the coaching transactions, guys being fired. And, maybe we'll talk about, what happened last night on Sunday Night Football, which was incredibly epic. Let's get into it. Producer Thomas Viola, psychic on the controls, connoisseur of pasta, titan of tomato sauce, Billy Joel junkie, and long-suffering, although now relieved, Jets fan. Tom, how is your Monday going for you?
It is great. I woke up 20 minutes ago and here we are. So I'm going to call that a good one. Still basking in the glow of what could have been the greatest football game ever played.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So before we started recording, you asked if I thought that the Raiders at the end of overtime were going for the win, like we're going to try to advance the ball aggressively, or if they were content to go with the tie. Tom, why don't you give me your thoughts on it, and then I will give you my totally uninformed analysis.
I mean, the whole thing to me was like the 2020 election. We failed to stop the steal, which I really wanted to see it. I wanted to see the Steelers get jobbed out of the playoffs by a tie football game. And the best part of it was we had the whole narrative the whole time of, they could just knee the ball the whole time and we'd get a tie. And we all knew that wasn't going to happen, but there was a very real chance that if this game was close towards the end, and I didn't think we were going to get there when the number was 12, when the Raiders had 29 points, and we ended up getting there on 32. But once you got to the end of the game, there was the possibility both teams would go, okay, we're kind of good. And that's what the Raiders did. I still think that they were fine kicking a field goal to win the game no matter what. But I think that their mentality was very clearly, we're just not going to let Derek Carr throw a pick six here. We're going to go down the field as leisurely as we want. And if we get in a field goal range, we get in a field goal range. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is the case. And I also think that the timeout did not cost the Chargers the game. Like, I think it's both. So let's just look at the last 4 plays of the game. Coming out of the 2-minute warning, the Raiders have the ball at the 45-yard line of the Chargers. So they're not really in field goal range. They're close-ish, but they're out of field goal range. And coming out of the 2-minute warning, they run the ball. Like, that is a clear sign that they are not really aggressively looking to advance the ball. And then after that, an even clearer sign, they lose a yard on the rush. They don't run up to the line of scrimmage and look to throw a quick pass. They let 40 seconds run off of the play clock, and then they run the ball again. So, like, they were not really looking to push for the win. It was just, we're going to run the ball. We're going to let the clock run down, and we're going to see what happens. Now, there's nothing to say that they wouldn't have run the same play after the timeout, right? So I don't think that the timeout really changed much in terms of what they were going to do. And the timeout did let Brandon Staley put a better run defense on the field, right? Because at that point, up to that point in the series, he had more of a pass defense on the field in terms of like nickel backs and things like that. So moving into more of a base formation, like in theory, that actually should have been good for the run defense. It was just that, I mean, the Raiders had a good running play after that, where Josh Jacobs got 7 yards, more time ran off the clock, and then another timeout. You still have your better run defenders in there, and then another big run. Like, I don't think that really what the Chargers did changed what the Raiders were going to do. I think it did give the Chargers a better chance of having their key run defenders in there, but it's a bad look. I think it's just kind of random the way that it worked out.
I will say definitely with timeout gate here. If you look at the play, there's a receiver lined up at the bottom of the screen who has a corner who's playing like 15 yards off of him. If they don't call that timeout, and the defense, you can clearly see it all over the field. Like, they don't know what's going on at that point. And by the way, embarrassing effort by the Chargers letting them run down the field like that. You were just on the bench for like half an hour because the longest 2-minute drill in history by your offense.
Right.
And then you come out and you are you have no excuse to be that tired and let the Raiders run all over you that much. But right there, that's a quick pass for at least 5 yards that gets the first down and most likely puts you into field goal range. That timeout was necessary to call to get that defense in order. I fully believe that.
Yeah. And let's talk about one quick thing before this. They could have gone for 2 to try to win the game. After that last second touchdown, they could have gone for 2. And Staley has been aggressive on like the analytics front this entire year. This was a moment where he chose not to do what I think a lot of sort of like the analytically inclined coaches might have done. This was like let's get into overtime, and that gives us a sort of clear path to the playoffs.
Yeah, because the thing here is, in a vacuum, you should go for 2 there. We saw it not work out for Harbaugh twice this year, but it's still the right call. In this particular circumstance, it is not, because of the fact that a tie is a win for you.
Yeah.
You are like you play for the maximum possible outcomes there. And in that game, you absolutely don't put it. You don't go for 2 in a situation where a tie gets you the win. You kick the extra point and hope for the best from there. But that is absolutely the play there. Because could you imagine if all you have to do is tie and you go for the 2 there and you miss it? Like, we'd be talking about that way more. But also,
a push is a win in this instance. Yeah,
a push is absolutely a win here. And thank God that the Steelers beat the Ravens, because could you imagine if we got robbed of that magic, of that game?
Of which game? Yes, got it.
Because if the Steelers beat the Ravens, this game only means something to one team. If the Steelers lose to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Thank God we got that. I was sitting there the whole time rooting for the tie. And I think it is the first time in the history of American sports where all of America was rooting for a sporting event to end in a tie.
Yeah. Yes. I will say, like, thank God that the Steelers won, though. Like, now we have to see them in the playoffs.
That's true, but at least we got this game out of it. And let's be real, the Raiders going to Kansas City wouldn't be much different.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would actually be a really interesting game, because the Raiders have recently been and it's a different era now, but like the John Gruden Raiders, like, they were sneakily competitive with the Chiefs, and like a divisional game, like the third time in a year that teams play each other, weird stuff happens in those games.
I would have been very upset if we got another blowout, though, because I mean, what if the Chiefs outscored them 89-17 this season?
Yeah,
like, not great.
Mean, yeah, I would say, like, I feel like the third game would be different.
I would hope so. My buddy is actually going. He bought tickets. We were sitting online during the Sunday football games talking, and he was like, "Oh, tickets for the game at Arrowhead, the playoff game, are like $140." And my friend and I, our eyes lit up. We were like, "You have to go. If they're that cheap, you have to go." And so he very nearly got Raiders Chiefs tickets there for $140 for a playoff game.
I mean, that would be pretty awesome. I'm surprised tickets were that cheap.
Same. I was too.
That's very weird.
Yeah, that was really surprising. But what a game that was. I am really curious if we lost a sports book if there was a tie. Because I don't know if they could have covered the Jags tie parlay.
Yeah.
A lot of people had that, and that was a ridiculous payout.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. I would have loved to seen that happen. Like, not like I'm rooting for a sports book to go bankrupt, but come on. Like, that would be an awesome win for the degenerates out there.
Yeah, like what would happen if we actually, for the first time ever, bankrupted a book? Because I don't know if they'd be able to cover the losses from that. I do know I was toying with the idea of laying. It got down to minus 1,400 on the no tie, and I was toying with the idea of laying the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
that would have been a sweat.
That really would have been. You would have hated yourself.
For sure. Instead, I got to enjoy the best game we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Speaking of the best game we've ever seen, let's talk about the national title game tonight for football.
Indeed. We've got the Natty here. Georgia is a 3-point favorite in this one over Alabama tonight. The total's at 52.5. I am surprised the number has stayed where it is because you know the public money has been coming in on Bama. The Mattress Mac money is in on Bama. I can confirm that.
That's the important money.
Yeah.
The Mattress Mac money.
He's a good guy. I've met him.
Uh-huh.
He's good folks.
Yeah, he seems totally fine and definitely folksy.
He's completely folksy. The best anecdote from him is that every time he flies into Vegas, he always goes to get a steak at Ellis Island because they have a $5 steak and egg special. And he says it's the best steak in Vegas. Wow. And if that doesn't tell you everything about that man, nothing does.
Wow. That is totally the type of thing that a billionaire would say. Actually, well, millionaire. I guess is he a billionaire? Do we actually know?
He's not a billionaire.
A working rich dude. That's totally the type of thing that he would say. And I would say, especially a working rich dude from Texas.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I know that kind of person, you know?
So where are you going in this game? Are you sticking with Georgia? Are you going with Bama here? What are your thoughts?
Okay. So looking at, the odds page that we have, this line actually has started to move a little bit more. So like an hour ago, it was the only 3 that you could get in the industry was at PointsBet. Now there's a 3 at DraftKings. There's a 3 at Sugar Hill. It is starting to move a little bit, but I don't know. Like the fishy thing is to go with Alabama. Right. But that was also the fishy thing, like against Cincinnati too. And like they dominated. I think this Alabama team is being, I don't know. It's hard to say that like in any given game, Alabama is being undervalued, but Alabama as a dog just feels so enticing, especially because we have seen them beat Georgia before. I don't know. Like, let's just like a little historical information here. If you take out Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, which I think it's fine to remove that because like a coach's first year, like he doesn't have a recruiting class yet. That's his. So taking away his first year at Alabama and going only from 2008 to the present time, Saban has been an underdog in only 6 games. So like it's a small sample.
Hang on. On that note, you're leaving out a key stat here. Saban has been an underdog in only 6 games. In each of those games, he has won by double digits.
No. Except for one.
Except for one?
Except for one. Florida, against Florida. I believe it was an SEC championship game, but that was like in 2008.
Yeah.
Like this, like, but so been an underdog only 6 times. We shouldn't read too much into the sample. Probably, but yeah, 5-1 against the spread as an underdog. And even if you look at the money line, 5-1 on the money line with an average margin, an average point differential of almost 15 points a game. Like Saban is just, he's unreal. So I don't know, man. Like, I know this is sort of like a square bet, but I would be very tempted to bet on Alabama here. Either the money line or the spread. I think if you're going to bet +3, you might as well bet them on the money line. But that's my totally uninformed. Like, I don't watch, like, I like college football, but I just, like, I've made the conscious decision the past couple of years not to watch it because I don't want to take up my Saturdays in addition to my Sundays. Oh, I did it, Tom. I'm sorry. You can still hear me, but
all right, there. We'll get you back in a second. I do agree with you on the point of, like, I don't watch a ton of college football. I suffer myself through a few Syracuse games a year. There we go. And, like, I'll watch the big games.
Yeah.
Like when I'll watch the marquee matchups and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got too much to do to be watching football both days nonstop.
Yeah, that's how. So anyway, it's like I'm saying this as someone who's totally uninformed in terms of, like, watching games this year. Mm-hmm. But if you just look at the historical numbers with Saban, I don't know, man. Like, I understand that Georgia is the better team. Like, Georgia should be favored.
I don't know that I agree with that at all.
Let me rephrase this. Georgia, based on the numbers that smart people use to create lines, Georgia should be favored. Okay, like, I'll just say, like, I understand how this line is created and why Georgia is favored, even though Alabama beat them once already this year. But, like, my Neanderthal brain just looks at this and thinks Saban should almost never be an underdog, especially against a team that he's already beaten this year. And it's a conference opponent. It's not as if he's playing against some team that he doesn't know. Like, he knows this team. So I think Alabama wins.
I mean, look, I'm completely with you. I have seen Bama win far too many national championships to go out and bet against them. I have had money. I thought this line was going to move in their favor. Once I saw it opened with Georgia as 3-point favorites, I thought this was going to move way the other way. So I hammered them on the money line immediately, which was, in hindsight, probably a bad idea, given you never know when a team's going to get a bout of COVID and get decimated. But still, I wanted to take advantage of the number. Maybe shouldn't have, because I can still get it today, but who cares? Here we are. I've got Bama tonight. And I mean, I don't think that Georgia's the better team in this game, especially because, first off, they did get defeated. It was 41-24. Georgia put up a fight in the first quarter, and then Bama kind of just steamrolled them, which is what Bama does. They don't even let you hang around really in the first, so it was a testament to Georgia to do that. But Bama just took over that game and was dominant throughout. And you look at this Georgia schedule, you look at the numbers, and you say, yeah, they were really impressive. But you look at this schedule, who'd they play? They beat Auburn 34-10. They beat Kentucky. They beat the Gators 34-7. They beat Clemson, but Clemson sucked this year. And that game was the first game of the season, but it was 10-3. And then you have a whole bunch of games against not particularly good teams. Like, congratulations, you beat Mizzou and Tennessee by a combined score of 84-23. The Charleston Southern Buccaneers, that's a real powerhouse of football. Georgia Tech, you beat 45-0. Congratulations there. That's your season right there. Arkansas, you beat 37-0. Like, they didn't play a lot of good teams. You flip that around, you look at Bama, they trounced Miami in the opener. They beat Florida. Granted, Georgia had a better win over Florida than they did. They struggled to 31-29, but that was the start of the season. They destroy Ole Miss. Yeah, they lost to Texas A&M, but I mean, A&M, congratulations, you got one there. They beat LSU. They beat the Razorbacks. They beat Auburn. It took them to OT. But you just look at what they've been able to do, and it's just been better. And then people go to the playoff games and say, oh, well, Alabama beat Cincinnati, but they didn't really look like a dominant team in that game. They kind of just slow burned them, whereas Georgia steamrolled the Wolverines. I don't think Michigan was all that good. And quite frankly, I think that the biggest tears that are going to be cried if Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL are from Ohio State fans. I don't care that he won this year. This team is nowhere near as good under Harbaugh. They have not been competitive in the Big Ten until this season. I don't think that this is really that much of a difference from – I think this is the aberration, not the trend we're going to see for the future. As much as I'd love to see that game be competitive, I like seeing Ohio State beat them every year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the stuff that you said in the tangent coming off of, but yeah, the main thrust of this, like I agree. Like I do think that Alabama is better. I'm just saying, like the smart bettors I know. And here's the thing, actually, when it comes to like teams that are awesome, like dynastically awesome, like Alabama, the Patriots, whatever. A lot of sharp people are wrong, just like all the time, wrong on teams like this. Like a lot of really smart bettors bet against Tom Brady and the Patriots for a number of years. And there are just some teams that are the exception. And so like almost every smart bettor I know is on Georgia, which like on the one hand kind of terrifies me. But on the other hand is like, this is very much in keeping with what sharp bettors do whenever they go wrong. Like they all want to be sharp, and like being sharp means not betting on Alabama.
Yeah, being sharp means fading the public. And yes, the public is on Bama here, but you know what? A lot of smart bettors I know are on Bama too. And yes, it gives you pause. It gives you pause whenever you're on a public side, but I know a couple sharp people that are saying, yeah, I'm betting on Bama in this game. The fact that I'm getting plus money on Alabama to win a national title. Yeah. The only time they have ever walked into a title game and I said they are not the better team in this game was the Clemson year where Clemson blew them out.
Yeah.
But any other time, I'm going to defer to Saban. I'm going to defer to this team. Bryce Young has been playing phenomenal ball here. This isn't the best Bama team we've ever seen. But I fully believe they're a heck of a lot better than Georgia.
It's one of the worst Alabama teams that we've seen in the past 8 years.
Yeah, they don't have a ton of superstar talent.
Yeah. Here's one thing that gives me a little bit of pause. I would like your insight on it.
Mm-hmm.
Saban in the college football championship game. So outside of the BCS era. He's 1-4 against the spread. Now, like, I don't want to read too much into that because I think that can be a little bit fluky, but it does maybe speak to the idea that in this one big game, the line does get massively inflated towards Alabama because the bookmakers know they can do that.
But they're 3-point dogs.
Yeah, I mean, it could still be inflated, right? Like, it could still be inflated. If a lot of smart bettors think that this line should really be like 5.5 or 6.
I think that the thing to more so look at is that maybe some of the lines when Bama is a favorite are inflated the other way, and that therefore makes it a little harder to cover the spread in a game that is traditionally going to be a lot tighter because you're not going to roll over in the championship game, no matter who you're playing or what's going on. And I think that Saban I'm much more interested in the trend of Saban as a dog not losing than I am in the trend of Saban not covering spreads in the Natty.
Yeah. I mean, I am too, but like I don't want to ignore what happens in past national championships because I like, I do think that there's something there. It's a question as to whether it's applicable in this instance or not.
For me, what it comes down to, Matt, I don't want to. If I lose money because I bet on Alabama to win a title, I'm at peace with that decision.
Yeah.
If I lose money because I bet against Alabama to win a title, I have to sit through a 3-hour-long football game, kicking myself for being an idiot the entire time for betting against them.
That is a very degenerate way of looking at this.
I mean, I am betting the way everything that I look at with this game tells me to bet Bama. If they lose, so be it. I made a call. I had a stance and I took it.
Yeah.
And I'll believe it was the right, especially if they lose a close one. I'll believe I had the right call.
Yeah. So I haven't bet on this game yet in terms of the side or the money line.
Mm-hmm.
I might wait just a little bit longer. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not, but I might. I haven't taken a position on the total either. If I had to, I would probably lean under, but I really don't have an opinion there.
I'd probably go over just because, I mean, I feel like college football, we generally see a lot more scoring in these big games. Yeah, the Bama and Cincy went under, but I don't know. I could see this one going either way. I'm not really on the total here.
Yeah, I'm not on it either. I have bet one prop. Brian Robinson Jr. under 65.5 yards rushing. FanDuel -110 odds. This opened at, I think, like 80.5 or high 70s, and it's been bet down. He had 55 yards against Georgia in the SEC championship. Georgia has a top 5 run defense. I think Alabama is going to need to rely on quarterback Bryce Young to dominate usage in the offense if they are going to win this game. And if they're not winning this game, I don't think they're going to be running the ball all that much anyway. So I am taking the under there. Brian Robinson, 65.5 yards rushing.
All right. I'm with you on that. I think that this is going to be more of a passing team. I mean, it's been that way for most of the season. They do have some really solid wide receivers. I don't see this Bama team quite doing the whole grind it out to win this game.
Yeah. The guy I really want to see on Alabama is Jameson Williams. I think if he's not the number one wide receiver in this class, because I know there are other really good wide receivers that people are kind of obsessed with, but I don't know. For me, I think he's number one. He's big, he's fast, he has the high school recruitment pedigree. He's got the college production. If he leaves college now, I think he would still be a 21-year-old rookie. So there are things to be really interested in with him. Just another marquee game. I would just like to see how he performs on a big stage.
Yeah. I would love to see the Jets come out of the draft this year with a big wide receiver, like someone who can be a Jamar Chase for Zach Wilson. But in the end, we have 2 top 10 picks, and I know that we're going to spend them on a defensive end who is going to have a middling career on his second contract for a different team, and a cornerback who's going to bust out of the league, such as
I was going to say, yeah, definitely a cornerback, because let's be honest, the Jets could use a cornerback, Timothy.
I don't know about that. At the very least, I think they have one for the future in Eccles.
Yeah.
I'm not as sold on the other side.
What was the line? 3.5? 3.5 more.
He's got a great story. He's got a great story too, though. 6th round draft pick, JUCO kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he did actually have a decent season for the Jets here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some of the coach firings. So it's Black Monday. What do you think we should? So the guys at the NFL Network, around the NFL podcast, they call this New Horizons Monday to get away from the negative connotations of Black Monday. What do you think this day should be called?
Black Monday. This is a day when people are losing their jobs. It's a negative day.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. New Horizons Monday. Cut the crap on this. This is like changing the disabled list to the injured list in baseball. Like, you're not doing anything here. You're not making a difference.
I mean, they're saying it very tongue in cheek. Let's talk about some of these guys.
Let's start with the most surprising one. Really didn't see this coming. Matt Nagy out as Bears head coach.
That's a good one. I thought you were going elsewhere. What is there to say? It's amazing that he even made it to this season. If not for the Bears making the playoffs last year, he definitely would have been fired. And I would argue that staying with him for another year set the team back. So bad move, I think, in keeping him, even though he made the playoffs. I think they probably still should have fired him. I mean, after his first season with the team, he had a legitimately good first year with the Bears where, his scheme was good. They were great against the spread. He made Mitchell Trubisky look like a functional NFL quarterback. After that, all of the seasons after his first year in Chicago, he was a pleasure to bet against. So I am sad to see him go because you could just basically auto bet against Matt Nagy and end up positive on the season. In terms of like real football, totally makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sad to see him go too, because one of my friends is a big Bears fan and I greatly enjoyed misery loves company. So I greatly enjoyed that. He also constantly talks about how Justin Fields needs to be fitted for a gold jacket already. And that makes me want Justin Fields to have a terrible career.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I see your point.
Yeah. It's solely about wanting him to shut up. Next up, I'd say Vic Fangio, I think got jobbed a little bit. He put up some good defenses. Teddy Bridgewater was your quarterback and you looked like a functional team. And then you actually won some games with Drew Lock here. I think if they ever actually gave him a quarterback, he could have done a better job. And I don't think it's really on him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He is the defensive guy there. He did, I think, a pretty good job with the defensive players that he had. I think one of the bigger questions for me is what role he had in the decision to draft a cornerback in the top 10 instead of a rookie quarterback in a class that is pretty loaded at the position, at least at this point, like from the prospect level of these guys entering, like, hey, you could have drafted a guy there to be the quarterback of the future instead of relying on Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Like, hey, who could have anticipated that it wouldn't work out with those two guys as your two quarterbacks? Like that was an easy thing to call. And granted, I think they drafted a really good player in the top 10 who will be a staple of that defense for years. That's fine. But quarterback is always more important than cornerback. Like, unless you have basically like 3 shutdown cornerbacks, like it doesn't matter if your quarterback sucks.
But on the flip side of it, I feel like you have to have been in that draft room, because if they genuinely said we don't like these quarterbacks, they made a good move. And I mean, you look at the play that we've had this season from said quarterbacks. I don't know that Mac Jones does what he's done anywhere but New England. And then the second best quarterback from the draft class through 1 year is General Mills. Davis Mills had the best rookie season of any of the other quarterbacks.
Okay, that's fine. Then I would also say, like, one, like maybe take a shot on Mills in the 3rd round, like, or the 2nd round, whatever it is. Like, take a shot on him. There were other quarterbacks who fell, like Trask, Kellen Mond. Like, you have a really bad quarterback situation. Like,
you did nothing to improve it.
Maybe take a shot on someone on day 2, but also, I mean, two things. Yeah, you could have had Justin Fields. I think it's worth taking a shot on him. I don't think we should write off Justin Fields just yet, because he was being ethered by the influence of Matt Nagy. And then secondly, like, if they did galaxy brain themselves to say, like, okay, we have no interest in any of the quarterbacks in this class, like that's a problem. Like I would say like scouting wise, that's a problem. Like you should have been interested in someone. Maybe that guy doesn't make it to you, but like, I don't know, Justin Fields, if he makes it to you and you're in the top 10, but I don't know, like they probably should have taken Fields. And I would say like, I think that having Fangio, who's a defensive minded head coach, like that impacts the decision to draft a cornerback instead of the most important position in professional sports.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, the equation was we have Teddy Bridgewater at QB. We ride the back of an amazing defense, and he game manages us to the playoffs. And it just didn't quite work, which I get. But I do think I do think that he will not be out of a job very long. He will be someone's defensive coordinator next year. Maybe not next year. Maybe there's a year gap, but still.
I mean, he should be a defensive coordinator immediately.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm calling Fangio and I'm like, hey, like saddle up. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Because they would get hired. The two of them together would get hired.
There is no guarantee that Harbaugh leaves Michigan, by the way.
Correct. Do you have thoughts on that? Like, do you think he wants to leave Michigan?
I don't know. I think it comes down to how much is he a competitor who wants to get back up to the national stage, like to the pro stage, versus the reality that he should not leave Michigan. The fact that he's had that job this long and been this bad at it, and then now you're at the highest that your goodwill has been. Why are you selling now? Because you could just post up in Michigan and be a god on that campus for the rest of time. Like there is no question. I would rather be a college coach than a professional coach any day of the week. Like that's a better gig.
It is, but these guys are competitive. Like they want to play at the highest level. And man, like I kind of disagree on the Harbaugh take. Like I think if he has another 4 years, similar to the ones that he had before this season, he's gone. And I think like it would actually be hard for him to get into the NFL under other circumstances, except for the one he's in now. Like, because he does have that reputation of like, okay, he destroyed a locker room. That's basically like the reputation. Like things were functional and then he just wore everyone down.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think that he is a college coach. He had success at Stanford. Granted, did have Andrew Luck. He had success at he didn't really have success at Michigan until this year. But then you had a couple of those years on the 49ers, but he had Colin Kaepernick back when running quarterbacks weren't a thing yet, and so no one really knew how to defend him, and they were able to get to a Super Bowl off that.
He also had Alex Smith. Like he did a really good job with the 49ers, and I do think a lot of what happened was Trent Baalke instead of just Jim Harbaugh totally screwing stuff up. Like
I don't know. What evidence do you have that Trent Baalke has ever like? It's not like he's gone anywhere else and also screwed everything up.
Are you serious?
He is the Jaguars GM. I'm fully aware.
Yeah. Okay.
Very facetious.
Okay. So I just didn't know. I didn't know. Okay. I mean, I think it had more to do with Baalke than with Harbaugh. I think a difference between Harbaugh now and Harbaugh at Stanford is that like the rate at which guys can transfer has like exploded. And so like college is much more like the pro game now than it used to be. So like, I think he's thinking like, if these guys are getting more power, if they can leave pretty much whenever they want, if they're getting like, they're basically able to be professional athletes now with the right to get paid for their image. Why don't I just go back to the NFL? And like, this is the one opportunity he has to do it because he's on a high after this season. So I get it. I think he probably should do it. And I think he could probably have more success. I wouldn't say like more success than he had with the 49ers, but like, I think it will be different for him this time around. Like, I think he would have a better sense of how to manage the locker room. And I think he could still be a very good NFL coach.
If he's the Raiders' next head coach, I don't know what I'm going to do with professional football, because then both of the teams that I like, I'm not going to be able to watch.
I don't know, man. I think if he is the Raiders head coach and if Fangio comes with him as the defensive coordinator, I don't know, man.
I'd rather have Bisaccia stay on and do the Gus Bradley Bisaccia thing.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I don't think that that's a great idea either. Like, I was asking myself, is it in the Raiders' best long-term interest to win this game right here if it means that they go on to keep Bisaccia as their head coach?
I don't think they're keeping him either way.
I mean, the rumors now are that he has a chance to take off the interim tag. If they win at Cincinnati, the case gets even stronger.
If they win a game, yeah, then I think the case gets stronger.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Even if they win, this feels kind of like a Tim Tebow, Peyton Manning type of situation. Even with Tim Tebow winning a playoff game in dramatic fashion, he got replaced by a legend. Like, if they want Harbaugh, even if the Raiders win a playoff game, they will replace the interim coach with Harbaugh. And I don't think anyone would blame them. Even like Raiders fans, like, they wouldn't be like, oh, how could you do him dirty like that? It's like, no, okay, you understand. Like, you have the chance to hire a guy who's had a very good record of success in the NFL with a really strong defensive coordinator coming along with him.
First off, you don't know that Vic Fangio is coming along with him.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
But. Second off, this is a man who also has a record of being an absolute cancer everywhere he's been. I don't think he's a very good coach. I don't think that he has actually had the track record and success. Like, yes, you had a couple good seasons with the 49ers there, and then you bounced to the college game. But you were a cancer at Stanford. You were a cancer in San Francisco. You're at Michigan, where you're just hailed as a legend, so you can get away with anything, including, again, losing to Ohio State a bajillion times in a row. Don't care what they did this year. I don't want him anywhere near a team that I actually like. That's my view on this. I would much rather, if you're the Raiders, go out and get Kellen Moore. Like, there are better candidates than Harbaugh.
Okay. I'm going to push back a little bit. Was he really that much of a cancer at Stanford? Like, he could have stayed there for decades and they would have been happy with that. So,
but I think you get away with more as a college coach because you can be more of an a-hole at the college level, I believe. Because at the pros, you get the Urban Meyer effect where, like, you're coaching a bunch of guys who make more money than you, and they are full-grown adults. Whereas in college with kids, like, the dynamic is different. It's like, I think it was Greg Schiano who would have everybody take a knee in the huddle, and all the players were like, really? Like, we're doing this? It's a different vibe. I think it's a reason why a lot of the college coaches struggle at the next level. And yes, again, he's made a Super Bowl. They should have been blown out in that Super Bowl. Everybody loves to forget that, but they made a Super Bowl. I don't think the sample size was big enough to actually look at his success. I look much more at what he wasn't able to do at Michigan.
The Michigan thing, I think, is its own kind of weird thing. He was very successful at Stanford, and then
but he was successful at Stanford because he had one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
That's fine. Like, he had to recruit him and develop him. Like, I get what you're saying, but he still had to get that guy there. It's not like Luck came in and played right away. Like, he redshirted, he did develop. He didn't even leave for the NFL as early as he could have because he wanted to stay and have more time with Harbaugh. So, like, I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit skeptical of your Harbaugh hatred. Like, okay, his first year in the NFL, he went 13-3 with Alex Smith as his quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, 11-4-1 and made the Super Bowl. The next year, 12-4. And then in that final year, like when stuff was just going crazy, he still went 8-8. You know, I mean, I think he's pretty good.
I don't know. No one shouts from the rooftops for Rex Ryan to get back in the league.
Yeah, because Rex Ryan never had a record like that.
Rex Ryan made 2 back-to-back AFC Championship games with Mark Sanchez as his quarterback and one of the best defenses of all time.
What did he do in the other seasons? Like
he had a 9-7 season, and then he had a shit season.
Rex Ryan is not in the neighborhood of Jim Harbaugh. Like he simply is not.
Harbaugh had one more good year. That's it. That's the
out of
difference
4
between the
years
two in the NFL.
Out of 4 years.
It was just one more good year. And the Jets in that third season were 1 game away from making the playoffs.
I cannot believe we're actually having a conversation where you are comparing Jim Harbaugh.
My point is that you're overrating Harbaugh, not underrating Ryan. That's what I'm trying to say here.
I would say it is very hard to underrate a coach who in the regular season is 44-19-1. That's what I will say. Especially when his quarterback is Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick.
Their division was also quite terrible back then. Like that division was AFC South bad at that time. I should say NFC East bad.
Yeah, I mean, I do get what you're saying, but I don't know.
I'm just saying I don't think that he's going to have as much success at the pro level a second time around. That's all I'm saying here.
Okay. Yes, because he had incredible success the first time. You would just say probabilistically.
No, I think that he's going to be bad.
You think he will be bad?
I think he will be bad.
Define bad.
I mean, it depends on the team that he goes to, but I could see him like it's not going to be Urban Meyer.
Well,
level.
Okay. So you will just as sort of a blanket statement, sort of the market adjusting for expectations. Mm-hmm. You would almost blindly take the under on the win total that Vegas sets for him. That's the marker of bad.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay.
Like you can't really even measure playoff appearances anymore because the NFL is going the way of the NBA and letting everybody in the playoffs now. Mm-hmm. Like this is a joke. Some of the playoff teams that we have this year, mm-hmm. It really is. The Eagles are in the playoffs for crying out loud.
All right. As stimulating as this conversation is.
All right. Mike Zimmer got fired. I feel like that's just the Vikings have decided to blow it up. They probably right. You're a middling team. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with this team. You're also firing the GM who's been there for 16 years. Don't know about that. He's brought in some good players for you, but you're saying we need a clean slate to try and go and actually push to win a Super Bowl. I get it. It's a regime change. Let's talk about the real one. Like, do you have any input on the Vikings, or do you want to go talk about the
Zimmer thing? I'll just say quickly, it's interesting. Like, I will be curious to see what happens with Kirk Cousins because, like, it's not guaranteed that he's gone.
Yeah.
So,
especially this year, there's not really a quarterback you're going to go out and replace him with.
Right. So it would be just a desire to get him off of the roster, move his contract, pure start over. I feel like that would be a little bit weird. So I will be curious to see what they do with him and the coaching staff that they bring in, knowing that they will probably have to have him as their quarterback. So
unless Aaron Rodgers decides to go full Brett Favre levels of pettiness.
That would be amazing. But he would have to go play for the Jets first for 1 year.
Oh, twist my arm, Matt. We would have won the Super Bowl that year if his shoulder didn't give out.
Probably.
We were 7-2 and we finished 9-7.
Yeah, it was a good team. It was a good team. So anyway, nothing really to say about Zimmer except like he had a good tenure there. It just ended weird, you know. So
This was a deciding you've hit your ceiling and it's time to move on. And frankly, more teams should do that.
Yeah.
But the big headline, did not see this coming.
No.
Brian Flores out in Miami. I mean,
This
they
one's
won
weird.
They won 8 of their last 9 games. He's probably the first head coach in history to have 3 above 500 seasons and go 2-0 against Belichick in his final year and get fired.
Did they have 3 above 500 seasons?
Is it 2? Did they not
No,
finish?
it was
above
2 because
500?
that first year they were bad.
Yeah, they tanked.
But it was like an intentional tank.
Yeah,
right. Like I don't hold that against them. Like that was part of the job of just like turning the roster. Yeah, turning the roster over, cutting all of the old expensive players, like just going through to see who were the young cheap guys they could potentially have for the future. And they started playing fairly well in the second half of his first year. Like they were, I don't know, man. They were spicy his first year. Like they would cover a lot. They were a little bit like the Lions this year. And yeah, you mentioned it. Like he was one of those rare like Belichick assistants who actually was able to go toe to toe with Belichick whenever they would play each other. Like I have no idea why they are firing him. It seems so weird. I think part of it is that like it seems as if he has legitimate trouble keeping a staff together. Like I think assistants have to hate working for him because he just cannot keep someone there.
Everything that I'm seeing, it's either people saying, why are they firing him? Or people saying it's because he is having relationship struggles. Like he is struggling to keep, like he's apparently hard to work with.
Yeah. I think that has to be it. Like he's gone through 4 offensive coordinators because this year it was a co-offensive coordinator position, which is whatever. It's a very college thing to do, but I don't know. I still think that Flores did a really good job with the talent that he was given early on, rebuilding the roster. I don't know. Tua, like maybe they could have brought him along better in his second and third seasons there as coach, but I don't know. Like I think Tua is fine.
Same. I think that he's especially this year shown progress. Apparently, there like some of the rumors are that the relationship between Tua and Flores isn't good, and so that's part of it.
Yeah, just some kind of big picture numbers here. So Brian Flores, in his time there in Miami, 29-19-1 against the spread. And if you take out the first month of the season that he had there in Miami, and like that first month was like total destruction. Still really good. 29-15-1 against the spread. Like, I don't know, man. And great is an underdog. Flores is an underdog. 21-13-1 against the spread. Even better if you take out that first month when he was there and just like turning the roster over. Like, and the Belichick thing. Like, he's actually one of the few coaches who can beat Belichick. I would never have fired him after just 3 years based on what we saw. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are choosing a lot of office politics over the stability of a coach. I don't know. It's tough to justify that firing there.
Joe Judge still has a job.
That blows my mind. Like they even got rid of Gettleman and they're going to keep Joe Judge. Are you kidding me? How is this team? How can you share a city with the New York Football Jets performance art team? And then you decide, you know what? We are going to be more dysfunctional than them. This was, let me tell you, banner week for the New York Jets here. Because not like first this happens and you're no longer the crappiest team in New York. That is a fact now. Like you can't deny that anymore. Joe Judge still being there seals that deal. And on top of that, you are also now no longer the biggest embarrassment in football history because the butt fumble is officially replaced by the Indianapolis Colts losing to a 2-14 Jaguars team whose own fans showed up in clown outfits to protest their team being terrible. Like, that's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened in football. I am sorry. You do not get over that. And if you're a Jaguars fan, you now have to wear clown masks to every game because that worked. That's a thing now. But how does Joe Judge still have a job in the NFL right now? You didn't even fire Gettleman. You let him retire. Like, you cannot tell me the Giants are a serious footballing organization because they are just absolutely not. What on earth? How the best thing that the Giants have produced over the past 10 years post Super Bowl is Kate Mara because she was great in House of Cards.
Yeah, I feel all of that is 100% correct. You didn't
Also,
you didn't stick the landing the way that I thought you were going to, but you still stuck the landing. That was a good
absolutely
landing.
Wild. You're Kate Mara. Your the dad's side of the family are the Maras, and your mom's side of the family are the Rooneys. That's absolutely insane.
Yes. I mean, I cannot believe that Joe Judge still has a job. He either has to be like they either have to like him for some really weird reason. The way like Jerry Jones really liked Jason Garrett, and you're like, I just kind of don't understand it. Like
Did Jason Garrett even make it the full season? No, they fired him.
No, they fired him in the middle of the season. You got to have a scapegoat.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Jason Garrett was good for, being a scapegoat for Joe Judge. He wasn't good for anything else, but neither is Joe Judge, except for unders. If you want to bet on the Giants, betting Giants unders, fantastic. But I can't believe it. I think it's either they really like him or they just don't want to have the embarrassment of firing a head coach this soon. But like, whatever, you're an embarrassment already. Just like,
you ran a
process.
quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9 from your own 5-yard line in a game when you have 3 wins. It doesn't get worse than that. You're done. Like, you should have just, because now, not only that, but now you're doing the same thing that your Jets just did for the last decade, which is, we have a head coach, so we're going to try and marry him with a new GM and see if that works. All it does is give you another lost year, which is what they're going to have next year. Clean slate, start over. It's not like Daniel Jones is going to be your guy anyway.
Hey, watch it. Watch it. You'll have all those Giants fans coming after you.
The Giants fans know that I'm right, too. You call up Philly, trade for Gardner Minshew. He's a better quarterback anyway.
Wow. That's a spicy meatball, Tom.
Look, you go into this season, Minshew should have had a starting job this season. If Daniel Jones was a starting quarterback in the NFL, Minshew was statistically better than him in every way.
Does that matter?
It does. It does. He was a better quarterback.
I mean, he was a better quarterback, but like, okay, this was Minshew's 3rd year, right? This was Daniel Jones's 3rd year. I think the difference is that, I don't know, like I don't know if you've even seen more out of Minshew, but like, I think
you've seen less out of Jones.
Yeah.
Like the man makes more turnovers than a grandma on Thanksgiving.
I don't even know how I wanted to respond to that. So I'm just going to ignore it. I don't know. I think the difference is that, and maybe it's just perception, and it's anchored on the draft capital that was or wasn't invested in the two guys. But there's this perception that Gardner Minshew is like, he is basically whatever he seems to be right now. And that is probably him at his ceiling. And is that good enough to be a low-end starter in the league? Yes. With Daniel Jones, there's the perception that he has this higher ceiling that needs to be developed. And so
but even then, like, why does that even exist? The only reality that gives that, the only thing that gives that perception is the fact that Dave Gettleman liked him enough to take him 4th overall in a draft when everyone laughed at them for doing that. Like, Gardner Minshew had a better college career for a better program.
Yes, that's true. But like, I don't know, like a lot of people had better college careers than like Josh Allen. Like Daniel Jones should have been a first rounder. He should have gone in like the teens instead of going number 4. But yeah, or was it number 6? Whatever. It doesn't matter where it was. But anyway, like they overdrafted him.
Yeah.
They should have taken him in the middle of the round. But like that still means he was a first rounder. I mean, I think he sucks. Like, it's not like I want to like stand up and defend him. Like, I think he sucks, but I'm just saying, like, you're comparing him to Gardner Minshew.
I genuinely believe Minshew's a better quarterback.
He probably is. Like, he probably is. Based on what we've seen out of the two of them so far, I think Minshew is a better quarterback. I still think Daniel Jones might have the higher ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, we're never going to know. That's the reality. Both of these guys are going to be lost to the sands of time.
Yeah. As they probably should be. Let's be honest.
I can't believe Joe Judge still has a job. Who else? I feel like there's one more guy that really shouldn't be there anymore. I don't know. I guess the big question is what the Raiders are going to do.
I mean, I'm just assuming that they will hire a new head coach.
I think it depends. Like, I am considerably worried that they do go on a run and keep Bisaccia, because even if you make like an AFC Championship game this year, which again would be incredible for them to do, I am in no way predicting that for this Raider squad. But no team has more question marks, especially for a playoff team. No team has more question marks going into an offseason than they do. Like, do you keep Derek Carr? Is Derek Carr the answer? They've been looking significantly better as of late. Now that Darren Waller's back in the lineup, the offense was actually functional. You're still missing that deep threat, but Zay Jones is kind of doing the job. You still need another receiver now that Henry Ruggs is gone, but they navigated a lot of turmoil. But I don't know that it feels more like the Jaguars making that AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles than it does of a team on the rise.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What I would say with Carr is that like he is competently professional.
Yeah, he's not like, Blake Bortles.
Yeah, like it would be hard to find a quarterback better than him on the market this year.
And I think the other thing about him, you look at that team and if you listen to the way anyone talks about Derek Carr in that locker room, it's always the same thing. You hear the same thing where they say no one outside of this organization understands what kind of leader he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do not say bad things about him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I bet he stays.
Yeah. I hope he does. I think he's a decent professional. And if he plays his best, he can get into a shootout, especially we saw this year. He was slinging the ball. And if they give him an offense, I think that he has a higher ceiling than a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens with them this weekend. I mean, they're 6.5 point underdogs against Cincinnati on the road. Tougher situation, but road dogs in the wild card round. They have a habit of covering, not necessarily winning, but covering. So that'll be something to keep in mind.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk more about all of those games on a future Degenerate Sports Betting show. But for now, Matt, we've covered an awful lot. We've gotten some great spicy takes here today. It's been a great show. I am very excited that I now get to move on from football season and enjoy the Vegas Golden Knights, the only professional sports team I follow with any track record of success. So I'm looking forward to that.
Am I supposed to say something right there? I thought you were transitioning into the end of it.
I was going to transition into the end of it. Real quick before we go.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I just want to say a quick word. We here in Las Vegas lost a good one yesterday in Brian Blessing. He was, I've had the privilege of working with him a couple times here in Vegas on VSiN. Always a consummate professional, one of the nicest guys that the sports radio industry has ever had. Started out in Buffalo. There was an outpouring of support on Twitter from all the people who knew him even from back then. Even the Golden Knights put out a statement about how great he was. If you didn't get a chance to go hear his work, it's worth looking up. He was a great guy, a great radio guy, and just an all-around fantastic human being who will be missed.
All right. Well, thoughts and prayers for his family. And, it's nice to know that at least the legacy of sports in Las Vegas is something that's growing.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It's a fun town, and it's fun to watch the sports continue to build here.
Yep.
But all right, we've got a whole horizon of fresh new sports to look at because football is now winding down. We've got the playoffs coming up, though. Matt, where can people find all the work that you're going to be putting out for the NFL playoffs?
Well, you're not going to find the fantasy football breakdown on Friday because that's not being published anymore. Praise be to the fantasy football gods. On Thursday, I will publish a best bets article. Also think about writing one that just kind of highlights whether I'm actually betting it or not. Like if I were to bet this game, this would be my favorite bet. So just kind of like something that touches on each game on the playoff slate. I don't know if I'm going to do fantasy rankings or not. Probably not, because like what's the point? So fantasy rankings, maybe I publish them on Tuesday, but probably not. All throughout the week in the FTN Bet Tracker, you can find my NFL sides, totals, and player props. You can also find in the FTN Daily DFS Pick Tracker some picks that I will put in there for Top Prop, maybe some other platforms as well. And then on Twitter, YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and on FTN, you can get all of the episodes of the Freedman Fantasy Football Show and the Degenerate Sports Betting Show. And always use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off at FTN. All right, that is the show. You can find me and Tommy V on Twitter at Matt F. The Oracle and TV at Work. Thanks for joining us, and see you next episode.